warm welcome to all of you. And here we have an extraordinary person. I would definitely be giving you an introduction about her. But before that, welcome to the Aleph series. And we are going to get started with an amazing personality. So, everybody, please meet Joy Apple, a luminary in Microsoft technologies, an M365 enthusiast with over a decade of experience in the Microsoft ecosystem since 2008. Joy is an unwavering innovator as a SharePoint, Microsoft 365 consultant and trainer. She's impacted the armed forces, government agencies, and Fortune 500 companies. As a Microsoft MVP, her passion and knowledge shine. And as a modern workplace strategist and trainer at PAIT Group, Joy shares her insights to help others embrace M365's potential. Hosting the Joy of SharePoint webinar series, which she proudly calls, she simplifies complex concepts, making technology relatable and more accessible, you could say. Let's explore how these technologies redefine workplace collaboration, communication, and efficiency. But before we get started and ask Joy to say a few words, I have a very interesting opening story, like an icebreaker, to get to know her even better. So here we go. Imagine amidst the hum of a bustling modern workplace, a team huddled together for a crucial project update. The challenge they faced was not uncommon, ensuring seamless collaboration and communication despite the geographical dispersion of their members. This was where the remarkable prowess of M365, a topic Joy Apple embodies, stepped into the spotlight. The team, comprising individuals from different corners of the globe, embraced various tools within the M365 suite. With their virtual workplace empowered by their technologies, they transformed into a synchronized force, erasing the barriers of time zones and physical distances. And as the project unfolded, they found themselves immersed in a level of cohesion they hadn't thought possible. The seamless integration of Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive allowed them to co author documents, engage in real time discussions, and track progress effortlessly. Joy's insights came to life as the team discovered the transformative impact of M365. In the midst of this narrative, Joy Apple's journey emerges as a guiding light, showing how passion and expertise can harness technology's potential to revolutionize the way we work, communicate, and even collaborate. As we delve deeper into the realm of Microsoft and M365 with Joy, we uncover the intricate threads that weave together to create the fabric that we call modern business transformation. So, a very, very, very warm welcome, Joy. I would love to give you the stage, and thank you so much for being patient.
Oh, my pleasure, and thank you. Beautiful story. Did you write that story? Because it's fabulous. Love it, love it.
Yeah. So, would you like to say a few words before we get started?
I would love to, and thank you, everyone. If we've never met before, I am just so very pleased to be here. Yuzma, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to work with you and members of your team. But yes, as you said, I've been working in the Microsoft space since 2008. Started out with various roles. My very first IT job was on a help desk. You learn so much in that role in any organization. It was amazing. But I have to say, over the years, I've watched SharePoint grow and mature. I've seen Teams come on the scene. Now we're watching AI come into the Microsoft suite. And it is, I say this every year, and every year it's still true. This is the most exciting time to be working with Microsoft products and technologies. And even here lately, very recently, I've transitioned from being strictly a consultant and trainer into a success role with a software company called Orchestry. And they're still watching people come to the platform, learn how to make these tools really work for them and reflect their business processes. It's amazing. So thank you again for having me here and allowing me to share with you.
That's wonderful, Joy. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, without any further delay, let's get started. I would be your host for this particular video, and here's our guest, Joy. First question, Joy. You've been working with Microsoft's products since 2008. And could you share with us how your journey began and what was initially, what initially drew you to the world of Microsoft technologies?
Oh, that's a great question. We have a joke, people that work with SharePoint. None of us grew up wanting to do SharePoint when we, became adults and could do anything in the world. No one. I know one person, Ashley Rogers, once told me that she did because her father was a Microsoft MVP. So she's the anomaly. I was in the financial industry. I was the unofficial first pass IT help person. It was not my role at all. I worked on loans and did mortgages, and then transferred over to the bank side of the financial industry. But I always liked technology. My father was an engineer, and I would watch him bring home these amazing plotters and graphs. And we had old green screen IBM computer, and I was mesmerized. But I was asked to help edit some chapters for, let's see if I can get this right, the Microsoft Office SharePoint Server 2007 Administrator's Pocket Consultant from Microsoft Press. And I was reading through, kind of putting it all into English, and I was intrigued. This is really cool stuff. This could really, like working in a bank, it was difficult to work together on content, share files, and it was all the things. It's like this would be so useful. And writing, you don't get rich writing books or helping people write books, but they sent me to SharePoint training and I ate it up. I went to every class they would send me to. And within a few months, I got that help desk job because I knew SharePoint. So I could help them with SharePoint. No, not a lot of people did. And within that year, I was part-time help desk. And as I could, I was mentoring as a junior server admin. And within 2 years, I was the SharePoint farm admin, and it just went from there.
Great. Would you say that the time that you got into technology about more than a decade ago, was that an easier time to get into this field comparatively to the time we are having right now?
Ooh, I hadn't thought about that. I'm going to give my consultant answer and say it depends. It depends on easy. I think now, right?
It depends. It depends. It's like asking a person to give rating on the scale, and they're like 7, the safer one.
It was, and I admit I was in the right place at the right time to be asked to do the editing on those chapters, which gave me that initial exposure. And I'm very, very thankful for that, very blessed. But not a lot of people knew what to do with SharePoint at that time or where it was going. It was really picking up speed. So for me to go into that engineering and manufacturing company in Huntsville, Alabama, and say, I know SharePoint, boom, yours. I think there's more competition now for SharePoint, but the field for tech is bigger now than it was. So that's why I'm going to stick with it. Depends on kind of, the who, where, what, when, and whys. They're very different. It depends on which angle you come from.
Okay, it depends, works. All right.
I'm going to stick with it.
Okay, moving on. As a SharePoint Microsoft 365 consultant and trainer, you've had the opportunity to work with various branches, especially of the armed forces, government agencies, and Fortune 500 companies. Can you highlight some of the most rewarding and challenging projects you've undertaken during this time?
Absolutely. So rewarding, it's always, anytime someone asks me that question, the one that really stands out for me, I was sent to Washington State to help a joint base. It was Army and Air Force. I was there to lead 4 days of SharePoint 2010 training, and then a day of
Mhm.
InfoPath. And if anyone has ever worked with InfoPath, it's not around much anymore, and it was interesting. We'll leave it at
Mhm.
that. But they had some interesting rules around how they could use the product. So that training didn't exactly go by the book, because I was trying to help them solve problems they were having then. And technically, I wasn't a consultant then. And then we dove into the info path, and I helped them untangle some knots they were in and
Mhm.
really find paths forward to be successful with the technology within the imposed limitations that the base had for them.
Mhm.
And every day I remember it because they were kind and generous enough. They actually awarded me or presented me with a challenge coin from the
Wow.
base. So I keep this on my laptop stand, and I look at it every day. I was so honored to be given this. So that always stands out. Um, I go off the book a lot. I'm realizing, because another one that stands out. I was helping a group at NASA,
Mhm.
back in Huntsville, Alabama. We were doing a week-long training. 2010 was pretty new. And I started talking about the term store and how you
Mhm.
could create centralized managed metadata that could be
Mhm.
used. It wasn't called a tenant then, farm
Okay.
wide for all the web applications and site collections. Well, they were about to go through an exercise where they were going to reevaluate and possibly change their classifications. So to be able to centralize that in one place was a big deal. And it wasn't a well known feature. It still isn't, I think, in some ways. So we scrapped the morning training and just dug in to all things term store. And we tested things and we created things, and it helped knock down a barrier for them. That was really exciting. But I'll tell you, regardless of how big, how small, public sector, private sector, anytime I can help even one person and they go, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Oh, this is going to make things so much better. Oh, that's way easier than the way we were doing it. One person, one group of people, that's a win for me. And I find that exciting. And it's more motivation to just keep on doing.
Wow. The way you talk about technology is like, you know, you're talking about something you love. Like, I don't know, especially the way you explained how technology came to you. So I think I just see something different. The spark in your eyes tells that you really love what you do. So that's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And I guess, yeah, at the end, whatever we do, especially if we are in professions that we love and we are very, very, very passionate about, that's what we want at the
Mhm.
end of the day, for people to benefit by it and realize that, okay, this could have been better. So I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. We're all on this big ball together. And if we can help make people's lives better, whether it's just by being kind when we walk by or helping them knock down a problem with SharePoint or Teams, I mean, that's what we're here to do. So,
Absolutely. All right. Next question. Being a contributing author for several SharePoint publications is an impressive achievement. Can you tell us more about your writing experience and how sharing your knowledge has influenced your professional journey?
it happened accidentally. Again, I say that should be my tagline, is I'm the accidental SharePoint professional. But you have when you're writing about something, it gives you a different perspective than just doing it, because you have to dig in. And basically, I'm thinking of those diagrams you see where they zoom in and kind of explode out the pieces and the parts. That's how I feel writing is for me. I have to dig in and write things out in a very clearly defined way that anyone could just pick it up and read it. And in fact, that's the direction we were given for those pocket consultants from Microsoft Press. Was we wanted anyone that picked up that book to be able to open it up, step through it, and go build that farm, go implement it, go turn those services on. So I think I've kind of taken that mindset. I think that was an amazing way for me to enter technology. I want people to be able to just pick up, follow the steps, and be successful. right? It shouldn't be, my father was a rocket scientist, so I probably shouldn't say this, but it shouldn't be rocket science, right? We should be able to pick it up, use it. It should be intuitive, friendly, helpful. And that's the way I want to share the information, in a way that makes sense and it's not voodoo.
Beautiful, lovely. I'm a little more interested in this particular question, I would say. So I'll dig in a little more.
Okay.
Since I have a similar interest in creative writing. So I've always wondered, when you write something which requires extensive facts or information, like there are different types of fiction writing, non-fiction writing, different genres, right? The tech writing is purely into stating facts or giving out knowledge. So how do you keep that exciting for the audience?
Not boring.
Yeah.
I hate being bored. So if it's, oh, darn it, here I go again. It depends. If it's literal documentation that's going to go into a book or a binder, right? It's going to be step by step by step, right? More pictures are better, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. But when I'm doing a blog, I find that I try to write it the way I speak. And I try to throw in, like, I've got one slide that I do when I do a speaking session at conferences, and it calls out that Outlook is not a file management tool. And I have in parentheses, if you are using it that way, knock it off. Right, just have fun. Don't be too serious. Try to be relatable. So I try to bring, for better or for worse, some of my personality into what I'm writing. So it is a little entertaining. Tell a fun story if it's short, just keep it interesting. And I do, for online publications, I want a good GIF in there somewhere. A little bit of action, a little bit of fun, just to break it up.
Well, I am definitely going to use that, because in creative writing, when we do history as a genre, and history comes with a lot of facts, especially if you're writing about a certain era, I could use that trick, shift the focus once in a while.
I actually work with our director of product at Orchestry is a former historian. So, yeah, we come from all over to SharePoint and Microsoft.
True. All right. So congratulations on receiving certifications as a Microsoft Service Adoption Specialist and Customer Immersion Experience Facilitator. But we really want to know, how have these certifications enhanced your ability to help organizations effectively and for them to adopt and utilize Microsoft 365?
I did the service adoption specialist first, and I will say a huge shout out and just thank you to Caruana Gatimu and anyone that helped her on that course. The information is just invaluable, I would say, because they really took that information and presented you with the methodology to be successful with implementing change. And you could take that methodology and apply it to any kind of change. Though it is specifically around Microsoft 365 products, I did it with teams in mind, because we were helping at that time. When I was with Pate Group, I was helping them implement teams into customer environments. But it helps you look at change from the perspective of the people that don't want anything to change. I don't even like it when the weather changes. Everything should always be the same, to all the way to the people that can't wait to be the first in line to get the new thing. And ways to work with those, how to get the change, how to get support from the top to help you push that change through. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful course. The CIE, the customer immersion experience, is very different from that. And it opened my eyes to a new way of introducing people to technology apart from training. Because when you train, you stand there and you talk. And I always try to have labs and hands-on things, but it's much more weighted on the side of the trainer. With the CIE, that customer immersion, you are giving them an environment to log into. It's got the content, it's got the security, it's got all the tools that they need. And they can actually get in there and be in the driver's seat using the tool. And it's amazing. You can have a table full of them with their coworkers, and they're in the same environment, being those different roles and truly seeing hands-on. Oh, this is how we can co-author a document in Teams. Oh,
Right.
this is how I can route this Power Automate process. It's very powerful. It's amazing. It's amazing.
So would you safely say that first thing when you want to know about technology is embracing change? Would you say it's more about embracing change and updating yourself?
You have to be open to it. You have to, because it's going to change. It's just the nature of the beast. And I think that's where moving to the cloud has been so revolutionary in a lot of ways, because that change is on a much faster pace than we were server based.
Much bigger level, yeah.
Much. So if you're not open to change, even just as a consumer, not as an employee in your organization, how often do we get updates to our iPhones and our Android devices, right? How often does a color or a logo or icon or an interface change day to day? It's just, we are in a fast-paced changing world from every perspective. Have to be open to it.
Great. All right. Now coming to one of my other favorite questions, the joy of SharePoint webinar series. It really sounds intriguing, especially the name. You have, I think, just hit the right spot with the name. So could you give us some insights into the topics you cover in these webinars and how they benefit your audience, or what kind of an audience do you mostly have?
I would like anyone to feel that they could come to a Joy of SharePoint webinar and take something away from it. My passion tends to be helping people figure out how to put these pieces together. So typically that's going to be the business end user. How do I make this stuff work for me? Though my very first Joy of SharePoint webinar that I did, I can't remember the year, but it was in February. So since Valentine's Day is in
remember February, yeah.
It was in February. And the title and the theme I went with was the things we love to hate about SharePoint.
Oh,
because it can be frustrating. And I thought that would be a good first topic, first webinar, because misery loves company. So if we're struggling and we're having trouble, let's just come together. Let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. So that's my goal. Sometimes I'll have a workflow expert come on, or a security expert, and we'll talk about that. Sometimes it's, you know what, Microsoft just released a brand new update to the roadmap. Let's go dig into these and see what that's going to do for us. I do them with my Orchestry counterparts now. A lot of topics around governance, how to make things work, adoption. Yeah, but my main goal, be useful. And I want people to join a webinar, any webinar I'm on. I want folks to feel like they can just grab their cup of coffee, come sit down, and feel like they're part of the conversation. Just that, interact, community. I want it to feel like a community thing.
Lovely. Follow-up question here. Let's say you were to give a tagline to your name, the brand, Joy of SharePoint. What would be the tagline?
Oh, it probably shouldn't be. It depends.
It depends, huh?
I don't know. Maybe you have options. Probably would be you have options.
Yes.
I say it all the time.
I have two options for you. One is, I'm not going to give you the words. You either give me a tagline with alliteration. Like, for example, I read a tagline which went like communication, creativity, confidence. So I'm just going to give you a little nip in the bud.
Oh,
Yeah. So you either have an alliteration, three words which have like same start, or you
mm-hmm.
or
Let
you
me think.
have just a okay, you can think about this first.
Let me think. Success.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what order, but success, passion, and change would probably be the three words I would play with. Because
Success,
you can be
passion, and
successful
change.
with change if you have passion about it. How's that? Is that okay?
That's great. That's great. All right. By the way, who came up with this name, The Joy of SharePoint? Was it you? Any family member, friends, relatives?
Um, a colleague, and at the time, one of my mentors and managers, Mark Rackley, and I were talking about it because he hired me to go to Pay Group 7 something years ago. And I was like, if we do this, I want to do a free webinar. He's like, okay, okay. He's like, what do you want to call it? I don't know. And we just kind of sat and played with words, and Joy of SharePoint came out of that kind of jam session. So
Perfect. All right. Please feel free to add anything you want in between, all right? Yeah. So I'll be moving on to the next question. Microsoft 365 is constantly evolving, as I think we just discussed, with new features and updates being rolled out almost regularly. How do you stay updated with the latest developments and ensure that your clients are leveraging the full potential of Microsoft 365?
it's hard. It's hard. Being part of the MVP community definitely helps because we get to sit down with the product group, engineering teams in calls. Sometimes they're feedback sessions. They'll demo something that they're thinking about implementing or they want to fine tune it. And we kind of give our feedback, our thoughts, our input. Those are amazing. There's also customer connection calls. Like the Viva team has a great customer connection program that you can join and hear latest and greatest, to see demonstrations and really get feedback from the real world. Those help tremendously, but not everyone gets to sit on the engineering feedback calls, right? Those are subject to non-disclosure and all that stuff. The number one thing I would recommend anyone do is go to the Microsoft 365 roadmap. It's online, it's published, it's open to anyone. And you can sort by product, by whether it's been released, general availability, planned, and really can get a very comprehensive feel of where that's coming. Dates may change. I work at a product company now. Unexpected things happen, and sometimes dates have to get moved around, but it's very valuable. I would also say if you are a Microsoft 365 admin, SharePoint admin, a Teams admin, or maybe you're ancillary to that and you can get a global read permission just to be able to read in the admin center. That message center sends out extremely useful information as well. So just keeping your finger on the pulse that way is a really good way to go.
All right. Well, I do have a question here, but I'll round it up and come later towards it. So collaboration and communication have become vital in today's workplace, as we know, especially with the rise of remote work. Whatever we saw during the pandemic and the pros or the cons of remote work. How does Microsoft 365 address these needs? And what advice do you have for organizations aiming to enhance their teamwork and productivity using these kind of tools?
So in the last few years, Microsoft has started rolling out and then adding on to what they call the Viva Suite. That is really addressed at, and it doesn't necessarily have to be for remote workers, for any kind of environment. It could be hybrid, but bringing together a single pane of glass to get to the things you need. and being able to, in fact, one of them is called amplify certain corporate communications. There's an app called Pulse. It's used to keep your finger on the pulse of your employees and the organization through short, easy, confidential surveys. Viva Connections, very, very simple, but that lets you bring your SharePoint homepage into Teams, because if you're in a Microsoft organization, you're probably in Teams all the time, but you need to be able to get to that important information. Probably I actually have a session that I present at conferences and user groups called Staying Live in a Virtual World. And I talk a lot about Viva Insights. And I think that's a misunderstood app, but it's got a lot of employee-focused information and helpful hints and tips, and it'll be in your inbox saying, hey, you sent this email yesterday and you said you were going to do this thing, but you didn't do it. Have you done it? Should you go do that? Oh, yes, I should go do that. But it has an amazing feature called the virtual commute. And I would say whether you have a real commute or you're a work from home like I am, it's amazing because you start your virtual commute. It walks you through the things on your to-do that you said you were going to do. You can mark them off. You can capture any notes about things you probably need to do tomorrow. Maybe you didn't get to it. Maybe, oh, my boss said I should do this thing. Let me write that down. That'll be on my to-do for tomorrow. And it lets you capture that and get it out of your head so you can disconnect from your workday and go live your life that you have outside of work.
Wow.
Because I'm bad about all night long go, I have to remember to do this tomorrow. I have to do this tomorrow. I have to do this tomorrow. Write it down, capture it, let it go. Take a minute to breathe and get on with your life. Fabulous.
Absolutely. That's great. I mean, I totally agree with this. One of the things which I feel we as a generation, we still need to learn is the balance between professional and personal life. I'm sure I also suck at it at some days. I don't know, probably you would also. Yeah, right. And it's just so not a happy thought to, have to think about work or even on your day off. So this is great. This is absolutely
Even
great.
if you love it.
Even if you love it. Yeah,
Love it.
exactly, right? I was actually having, sorry, you go.
No, go ahead.
I was actually having a conversation with a friend of mine. She got into her dream job and designation and everything. And she's actually got into being into the medical field, something with respect to psychotherapy and all. And she had a few clients and she said, Usma, this is so overwhelming. Does that mean it's like it was all a facade? Did I get into something wrong? Like, was I meant to do this? Why is it overwhelming? I thought it's going to be beautiful. And I thought about it and I was like, you know what? The thing we feel is people feel overwhelming is just a negative feeling. But hey, you can be overwhelmed with things that you like. And that's the sign that you are doing it excessively. So I asked her, have you been thinking about your patients since you've started one-on-ones? And, are you having that line, that border in between your personal and professional life? She's like, how do I? It's something I wanted to. So I'm always all about it. I'm like, see, that's what it's doing it. You're overwhelmed because of it.
You're so wise, because that's exactly true. We have to remember, like, I'm not just the director of success at Orchestry. I'm also Joy Apple that has a family and friends and dogs and a psycho cat. And those things need my attention too.
Of course.
It's hard to find that balance. And I think I want to circle back real quick too, because part of your question was about organizations adopting things.
Yeah, we just derailed it. I'm so sorry about
it's
that.
so easy these conversations can go in so many different directions. But I think our organizations, and I don't know that it derailed, because I'm thinking about your friend in this light too. I don't know if she's independently employed or if she works for an organization or a hospital. But
She just started off like almost like a resident, you could say.
okay, so she's within an organization.
Yeah, yeah.
Medical is probably a little bit different than IT, but organizations need to remind their employees sometimes that you're given your time off for a reason. It's part of your compensation. You should use that. Um, it was funny when I was at Pate Group, right before I came over to Orchestry, I was kind of the boss. And now I've transitioned to Orchestry and I'm not the boss anymore. I run the success department, but I have a CEO over me. And he's actually known to call people out if they're on teams on their day off. So I really appreciate what you're doing, but you need to log off now. You're not supposed to work today. Go do something else. Right. And I think that's important. And I think it's also important for organizations to make sure that people that don't come into an office, like my company's in Canada, I don't have an office to go to, right? We need to feel connected to each other, regardless of if there's a physical structure we go to. So having events, having teams, Viva engaged communities, places where we can connect virtually even though we're on the clock, that's very important because a connected employee is going to be a productive, a happy employee that's going to stay. So lots of different ways that can be addressed, but I think it's an important conversation for organizations to have.
Absolutely. We here at Aleph, we are like a very dynamic company. We have quite a lot of youngsters as well, and we always get to hear this from our bosses that, you know what, it's fine, you know, you are in this particular age, this is the time you need to enjoy. So lucky enough to have those kind of bosses around, and I'm sure, I mean, give it a couple of more years and I'm pretty sure people would be definitely getting aligned with the balance between both the lives. So can we go ahead?
Yes, of course.
Perfect. We have, I guess, two more questions. Yeah.
Okay.
As a modern workplace strategist, what are the key aspects you focus on when helping organizations transform their workplace using Microsoft 365? And are there any success stories, you know, you can share?
Value. Number one is value. When I was doing implementation work, um, it was always interesting. My favorite thing I would do was go in and sit down and do a discovery day with various stakeholders in the organization. And it was interesting to go, oh, okay, so you have Microsoft 365, you're paying for it, you've got your E3 licenses, your E5s, whatever. But you also are paying for enterprise licensing for Zoom or WebEx. And you're also paying for Box or Dropbox or the G Suite or, right, where's the value coming from? So helping them figure out how to come at Microsoft 365 from a secure stance that's also flexible and collaborative. So they can go, in my mind, get rid of all the other stuff because you don't need it. You've got the Microsoft suite. But I've also had people come to me and go, okay, this is what we want to do. We want to do this crazy thing and all this stuff. And if that doesn't align with where they are with Microsoft 365, that's when I have to call a timeout and go, is that going to be valuable for you right now? If it is, we do it. If it's not, this isn't the time or place. Maybe you circle back in a couple of years, or maybe you go get something that's already designed to do that for you instead of trying to build something you don't have the skill set or the time to do. So I think value is very, very important. As far as success stories go, I had an amazing client.
I see a smile coming up. I see a smile coming up. Yes, please.
I do. I feel very protective of the people I work with, right? So if you've been my customer, you're mine. But it's a company based out of Colorado that makes electric fleet vehicles. And They had gone through a bad experience with an IT admin that was no longer there. And IT was a mess, a mess, a mess, a mess, a mess. People didn't trust IT. People didn't know how to use what they had. They were growing so fast. There were new faces. I was on site 3 or 4 times, new faces every time because growing. We came in, we helped them implement a SharePoint based intranet. We helped them implement Teams for the collaboration and the project management side of that. We got OneDrive going. We got them migrated out of Box and consolidated inside of Microsoft 365. We had sharing capabilities with security and all the things. And it really turned into a beautiful ecosystem. It streamlined processes. And through that, the new head of IT was able to form new relationships with the business. Right. It was wonderful. And it was always a pleasure to work with them.
I also sense you're the kind of person who, with your customers, especially you started with this line, you said that I am very protective of my customers. So I also believe you're the kind of person who believes a lot in having that bond, even if a sign off happens and things are done. Do you feel so?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually have a very good friend of mine now that years ago, she started out as a customer. But just over the years, right? I joke that I stalked her 'cause she's very introverted and I am not. And which just every once in a while I would send an email and check in, da, 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 da. And now we're friends, right? I wore her down, but I think relationships in any business are very important. And if I'm trying to help you overcome challenges and struggles and obstacles, and it's probably going to cost you money, there has to be trust there. Otherwise, it's going to be harder for everyone, and that value again won't be the same.
Absolutely. Okay, coming up with the last question. With your wealth of experience and expertise, what do you see when you think about the future of Microsoft 365? Are there any exciting advancements or trends on the horizon that you believe will shape the future of our digital workplace?
Absolutely. And you know what I'm going to say.
I
I'm
know
going to
what
say
you're
those
going to
two
say.
letters that everyone is saying right now.
Please go ahead.
AI, right? AI. But I don't know if I'm looking at it different than some. I'm sure I am than some people. Because some podcasts I listen to, it's all doom and gloom, and we're going to teach AI how to take over the world. Okay. And I really see, and I love how Microsoft branded their version of AI as Copilot. Now, I do have a bone to pick. Whoever named it, I feel like the P should have been capital because I'm a SharePoint person and that's important. But I really feel like we need to recognize, yes, this is going to come and it's going to do some stuff for us, but we're still in the pilot seat. It's the co-pilot. I've played with Chat GPT. I had an email I needed to send the other day, and I could not get a good first sentence to save my life. So I went to Chat GPT and I said, "This is what I do. This is who I am. I need an opening line for an email." And it gave me 3 or 4 different ones. I was like, I'll take that one. And I took it and I made it my own. But it got rid of that intimidation of a blank page.
Right.
Fabulous. So I think we're going to see some of the grunt work of being a knowledge worker alleviated, not taken away, but alleviated. Where it goes from there, I'm not even going to kind of guess. I personally don't see us going into a matrix type future, but I do think it's going to call us to continue to be responsible. We're going to have to focus on integrity a lot more, right? We want to make sure that we're doing things ethically. But I think it's an exciting time to be in technology and just to see where this road takes us.
Would you have figured out, I mean, when you started your journey, would you have thought that this is something which is technology is gonna reach this level in almost a decade. Was that ever a thought? Or
In the decade, no. I mean, I watch some science fiction movies and you would hear things scientists are playing with, and I'd be like, have you never watched a science fiction movie ever? Don't do that. Right? We know how that
Don't do
ends.
that.
But to see the capabilities that we have now compared to what we did, and it's not just Microsoft, but in all areas of science, mathematics, medicine, it's just amazing. And I think in medicine is where I'm probably the most excited to see what AI can help us
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that
Right.
unassisted we would struggle with.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great. This has really been great. I would like to add some. So when I was growing up, I think one of the first movies I remember seeing was Will Smith's I, Robot. And that movie was like, wow, I want to be there, in this world when this happens. But at the same time, I believe science fiction in movies and in the entertainment industry tends to show science fiction or robots or AI already in a negative light. So
Mhm.
that's a bit not okay, I would say. What would you recommend a movie to watch, especially to young generation people who are getting introduced to AI, like the right movie, a good one?
Okay, so I did love iRobot, and I will say I find it very interesting because Isaac Asimov wrote those 5 laws for artificial intelligence. I
Mm-hmm.
might be wrong, but like in the 50s, maybe. So we see, and those have been adopted into modern AI. So it's amazing to see the past where it didn't even exist create what we have now. So honestly, I'm not going to recommend a movie, but I would recommend. Oh, I'm going to show my true geekdom here. Just the universe of Star Wars, or Star Trek, not Star Wars. Sorry, I
Star
do
Trek.
love Star Wars, but that's adventure in space to me, not science fiction.
Yeah.
But like the tricorders, the communicators, the abilities that they had there have definitely influenced medical, space, technology. So I think that's a good place to look, because I think that gives us an idealistic and hopeful view of where
Hopeful.
we could go.
That's the word I was looking for when I was like, about to ask you for a suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up watching the original series of Star Trek with my dad, and then I became obsessed with the Next Generation, DS, all the things. I am a Star Trek girl at heart, truly am. But I think that's a good vision of what we could accomplish.
Beautiful. And that's it. Those were our questions. Anything you would like to add on, just as a closing line or in a nutshell for our audience?
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much. This has been so fun, so enjoyable. You're an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
I've appreciated this conversation, and I would just let folks know, if you are stuck with Microsoft 365 or just in general. I mean, there are options out there. The Microsoft community is all about community. There's a new community presence on LinkedIn. I know we don't call it Twitter anymore, but I have a hard time calling it X. But the Microsoft, it's Twitter. The Microsoft community is very vibrant on Twitter. I'm in both places as either Joy Apple or Joy of SharePoint. Find me and find the people I follow. You will find an amazing community of support within the Microsoft community. So I definitely encourage you to connect.
That's great. Thank you so much, Joy. Thanks a lot. I would also love to thank you. This has been really illuminating. I got to learn a couple of things, and I would love to be, and on behalf of Aleph, I would say we would love to be in touch for any future endeavors or anything that we come up with. This has absolutely been fascinating. Thank you so much again.